Welcome to today's explainer. I want you to do something for me real quick. Just close your eyes for a second. Imagine you have absolutely no phone, no spoken language, not even a concept of yesterday or tomorrow. You're just crouching by a campfire in Africa, and it's 300,000 years ago. The fire's burning kinda low, and suddenly, a drift of smoke from a specific plant blows right into your face. You inhale, totally by accident, and boom, something in your perception actually shifts. Your brain sends this loud, clear signal. Do that again. That single, totally accidental moment, that's where an incredibly fascinating human story begins. Because honestly, ever since that very first campfire, humans have been chasing that exact feeling in literally every civilization we've ever built.
So, why did humans ever start inhaling smoke in the first place? Well, I want us to completely bypass all our modern public health judgments for just a minute. We are not here to talk about why modern smoking is bad. You already know that. Instead, we're going to look at this as this profound evolutionary mystery. Think about it. How did an act that seems completely counterintuitive, I mean, literally breathing in burning matter, how did that become a universal human behavior? Well, it turns out it all started entirely by accident, and it was driven by our earliest ancestors' relationship with the one tool that changed absolutely everything.
Okay, let's dive into this timeline. Just take a look at the massive, staggering scale of human history we're dealing with here. A million years ago, Homo erectus wasn't just, scraping by. They were maintaining daily controlled fires. We've seen evidence of this in places like South Africa's Wondervark Cave. Now, fire doesn't just give off light and heat. When organic matter burns, it releases a whole cocktail of chemical compounds, alkaloids, terpenes, volatile molecules, the whole shebang. And early humans, they were choosing campsites for safety and shelter, not really for the local botany. So this basically meant they were inevitably burning plants that release psychoactive compounds right into the air. Our highly curious ancestors were naturally and repeatedly exposed to these altered states just by hanging out around their daily fires.
Which brings us to Section 1, the accidental discovery, and how fire completely altered us.
You see, fire didn't just keep our ancestors warm. It fundamentally altered human biology, the way we sleep, and our perception in ways that laid the exact groundwork for everything that came next. Look at these steps, because this is an absolutely incredible piece of evolutionary history. Before fire, primates slept up in trees in these short, fragmented little bursts, right? Because falling into a deep sleep basically meant a predator could sneak up and eat you. But fire kept the predators at bay. The dark suddenly became manageable. For the first time ever, human bodies could actually sleep safely on the ground, which allowed us to experience a dramatic increase in deep REM sleep. In fact, modern humans spend way more time in REM sleep than other primates, and that's what triggers those vivid, immersive dreams. Dreams were essentially our very first altered state of consciousness. So picture this, waking up from a really emotionally raw, vivid dream, sitting by the fire and inhaling psychoactive smoke. Early humans organically started linking the altered states of their deep sleep with the altered states caused by inhaling campfire smoke.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, wiring the human brain. Let's talk about the biology of smoke.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that we have to understand the biological reason early humans reacted to these specific plants. It wasn't just some random glitch in the brain. No, it was an incredibly specific lock-and-key mechanism that already existed inside of us. Your brain literally contains an internal biological network called the endocannabinoid system. It regulates your mood, your memory, your appetite, even your stress responses. And here is the truly jaw-dropping part. These internal receptors did not evolve because of cannabis. They evolved for entirely internal regulatory purposes. But the compounds produced by certain external plants, like cannabis, just happen to fit perfectly into these pre-existing receptors. It's like a giant puzzle. Our brains were already internally wired for these compounds long before a human ever intentionally inhaled a single breath of smoke. The brain didn't have a confused reaction to it. It actually had a familiar one. So when exactly did the switch happen? From accidental campfire exposure to doing it on purpose? Well, take a look at this massive number. 12,000 years ago. Out in the Great Salt Lake Desert of Utah, archaeologists found this 12,000-year-old hearth. And inside it, wild tobacco seeds weren't just scattered randomly. They were concentrated in a very deliberate pattern right in the fire. This is incredibly early evidence of intentional tobacco use. And honestly, it raises such a fascinating question. If humans in North America were carefully placing tobacco seeds into fires 12,000 years ago, what were other ancient humans doing globally with their own local psychoactive plants at the exact same time?
Let's jump into Section 3, the era of sacred ritual. Dangerous and deeply sacred. As we move further into the historical record, we start to see that intentional smoking definitely wasn't viewed as just some casual habit. Far from it. It was revered, it was considered dangerous, and it was treated as something profoundly sacred. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean by intentional ritual. Take a look at this quote. It's from the Greek historian Herodotus back in the 5th century BC, describing the Scythian people. Now, for over 2,000 years, modern scholars and historians read this account and essentially went, "Oh, he's exaggerating. He must just be describing a regular steam bath." They totally dismissed him. That is, until archaeologists literally dug up Scythian burial mounds and found the actual ancient bronze braziers, the heated stones, and the physical residue of highly potent high-THC hemp. Herodotus wasn't making it up. The Scythians were intentionally selecting potent plants to alter their consciousness in a deeply specific, managed group ritual.
This takes us to Section 4, Medicine and Social Trust, Healing and Survival. Let's move to the next part and see how this builds. Because beyond just communicating with the spiritual world, early civilizations actively utilized this incredibly powerful tool for real biological healing. We tend to think of the medical inhaler as this purely modern invention, right? But look at the Ebers Papyrus from ancient Egypt, dating all the way back to around 1550 BC. It specifically describes heating herbs and actually inhaling the smoke to treat throat and respiratory problems. And over in India, over 3,000 years ago, Ayurvedic medicine utilized something called dhumapona, which literally translates to smoke drinking. This wasn't casual. They had highly formalized, carefully refined protocols for it. Think about it. In a world with absolutely zero antibiotics, these early doctors understood something vital. They knew that if a plant has therapeutic properties, the lungs are a highly efficient, super direct delivery method. It was medicine, plain and simple.
But beyond medicine, there was an even older, arguably more crucial function at play here: social infrastructure. Look, humans are social animals. In the incredibly harsh ancient world, our ability to trust each other and move as a cohesive unit, that wasn't just a nice to have. It was quite literally a matter of life or death. Shared rituals, and specifically the synchronized neural activity achieved through a shared smoke circle, measurably increased trust. It chemically deepened group identity. By entering an altered state together, they were creating mutual vulnerability. It acted as the social glue that allowed early humans to survive incredibly dangerous situations together.
Now for Section 5, the modern industrial disconnect, the great reversal.
So the crucial point is, what actually happens when the modern world takes this ancient, carefully managed tool and completely strips away its protective context? Well, we get what we call the Great Reversal. Check out the left side of this comparison. Here we see the ancient approach of indigenous cultures. Tobacco and psychoactive smoke were sacred, they were completely enveloped in deeply managed ritual, and they were absolutely vital for social cohesion. A shaman blowing smoke wasn't just, taking a smoke break. They were doing serious, dangerous work. Now contrast that with the right side. After Europe discovered American tobacco around 1492, the context was completely obliterated. Fast forward to the 20th century, industrial machinery transformed a sacred plant into a cheap, wildly convenient commodity. Specific compounds were literally engineered to accelerate nicotine absorption. We moved away from participating in a natural cycle to engineering a highly addictive, completely context-free product.
But you might be wondering, why was it so easy to commercialize in the first place? Well, it's because it taps into a fundamental biological drive. UCLA psychopharmacologist Ronald Siegel proposed this truly fascinating theory. He suggested that the human pursuit of altered states of consciousness functions basically as a fourth biological drive. So, right alongside hunger, thirst, and sex, there is an innate biological imperative wired into us to cross the threshold of ordinary experience. And get this drive isn't even limited to humans. No way. Elephants will actively seek out fermented fruit just to feel its effects. And here's a totally mind-blowing detail. Siberian reindeer specifically forage for psychedelic mushrooms, and it gets crazier. Because the active compounds survive intact, other reindeer will actually drink the urine of the ones who ate the mushrooms first. Yeah, they are engaging in literal drug recycling out in the frozen tundra. If this drive to alter consciousness is that old, that natural, and that widespread across the animal kingdom, treating it simply as a modern human aberration just misses the point entirely. Which honestly makes the modern commercialization and the stripping of its ancient context all the more tragic.
I want to leave you with this final, really powerful thought. The smoke hasn't changed. What changed is what we decided to do with it. Our ancestors implicitly understood the profound power of these plants. They built complex systems, deep rituals, and really strict restrictions to manage this powerful biological drive and make it survivable for the community. And then We simply took all of that context away. The vast monumental distance from the ancient shaman's tent to the modern cigarette machine represents exactly how a sacred tool, a tool that literally helped forge human society and make us who we are, was ultimately twisted into something lethal. So, next time you smell the smoke of a campfire, ask yourself, what other ancient human drives have we stripped of their original meaning? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.